truth will set us free again. Lies, banking, and war. I'm your host, Bandana Red. As you know, there'll be no resolutions in 2023, but just a massive awakening. The resolutions of the future are beneficial for the whole human race. You stay the course and remain confident and positive. Coming to you from Merrimack Valley in Massachusetts, where the shot-heard around the world was fired. At the Concord Bridge, that changed the way the human race would be ruled or not be ruled by kings, queens, czars, and emperors, tyrants or dictators. And ever since that day, it changed the way the human race would be ruled. They've been coming after it. We are right now at a time it may be in the most jeopardy it's ever been in. We're going to connect the bats, the wars, taking a look at how the banks are connected to it all, the bank collapse, and why Russia, particularly Putin.
Washington, D.C., late 2019. The International Consortium of Investigative Journalists began receiving a trove of leaked documents. In all, nearly 12 million confidential financial files from firms that set up shell companies and offshore accounts for clients seeking to keep their wealth in the shadows. The leaked records are called the Pandora Papers, and they expose a financial system that shields the deals and assets of some of the world's richest and most powerful people.
We arrived at the conclusion pretty quickly that this was going to be bombshell material. Bank accounts of politicians that showed tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars worth of assets that had never been publicly associated with these politicians or public figures before.
Looking at it,
that sets hundreds of journalists off around the globe. Within 12 or 24 hours, you have reporters from the Philippines to Israel to Brazil who are announcing that they've found offshore secretive deals related to finance ministers or their transport minister or billionaires from their country.
In the documents, the reporters were tracing how billions of dollars were being hidden from tax authorities, criminal investigators, creditors, and the public. Documents were leading directly to world leaders themselves.
Certainly seeing powerful people for various reasons, maybe for tax purposes, maybe simply to hide the fact that they're multi-millionaires from their own citizens who often live in poverty.
In all, there were more than 300 public officials around the world, and 14 cases involving current leaders of countries.
Hundreds and hundreds of politicians, from heads of state to ministers to diplomats, were active participants and beneficiaries of this offshore system. And I remember it dawning upon me quite suddenly, how on earth can we hope to reform the offshore system, as so many experts say needs to be done, if all of these politicians are benefiting from it?
Around this time, a report surfaced on a Russian investigative website about a woman named Svetlana Krivonogic.
Обнаружилась интересная бизнесвумен Светлана Кривоногих. Ей принадлежит около 3%.
It was a story about a woman from St. Petersburg who had become mysteriously extremely wealthy. This very detailed account, they connected her to the Russian president, Vladimir Putin. Their story alleged that she had a secret relationship with Vladimir Putin and that they had in fact perhaps even had a child in or around 2003.
Journalists from the ICIJ collaboration searched for the name Svetlana Krivonogic, and they found it. The files showed her listed as the beneficial owner of a company based in the British Virgin Islands. It was called Brockville Development.
The documents surrounding that shell company indicate that it was created to hold property. And then it indicates that that property is located in Monaco.
On the Mediterranean Sea, Monaco is a low-tax principality popular with wealthy people from around the world.
I
kind of know these guys. I spent 4 years in Moscow as the Guardian's bureau chief there. And one thing I do know about them is they're very secretive, especially when it comes to money. But also they're rather paranoid.
Mainly on the back of state resources, oil, gas, things like that. And that they've created these colossal offshore structures where their assets are being hidden, and also that it's being done with help from the West.
Proact has estimated her assets in Russia alone are worth around $100 million. But in the trove of leaked files, there was something that tied Kravonogic and others close to Putin together. They all had used the same financial firm, Moores Rowland in Monaco. One of those Putin allies found in the documents is oil trader Gennady Timchenko. He's a close associate of President Putin and has been accused of using his connections to amass an oil trading fortune estimated at $20 billion. As with Kravonogic, Moores Rowland Monaco helped Timchenko by setting up shell companies used to buy a yacht and jets. And it also assisted in setting up a company that would become part of his oil trading empire. The documents also show that Moores Rowland Monaco set up a shell company for Peter Kolben, a childhood friend of Putin who's since died. He was suspected by U.S. officials and others of holding hundreds of millions of dollars in assets for him. One leader was the owner of more than 30 shell companies. In this document, he is referred to only as you-know-who. This document shows 16 of the companies that he owned, all registered in offshore tax havens. The owner, Abdullah al-Sharif al-Hussein. The address listed, Ragadan Palace, Amman. He is the King of Jordan, who has championed government transparency.
The King and Jordan have been an important American ally for a long, long time. Has more or less gone along with the United States on its adventures, good and bad, in the Middle East.
The leaked documents showed that while his country was undergoing increasing economic hardship, he was making secretive financial transactions using a network of offshore accounts.
When somebody has that many shell companies, it raises a lot of questions right away. What are they for? How is he using them? That's where the hunt begins.
One of the companies was called Nabisco Holdings.
Nabisco was listed in the Pandora Papers as a company belonging to the king, but it didn't have any extra information. What we were able to do, though, was to obtain land records from Los Angeles and confirm that a company with that same name was the owner of a $33.3 million luxury mansion overlooking the ocean in Malibu. And then we realized actually that there were two neighboring houses right next door also owned by the king of Jordan through different shell companies.
U.S. training and arming 5,000 Palestinian Authority troops in Jordan. Remember, I just said this is how they get it in. It comes across Jordan. Date on this, April 2nd, 2023. So do you see a trend here? All right, we'll continue on. But you may remember we reported that, and we were watching a lot of flights going in and out of Jordan, and I said, something's going on in there. And then this popped up, and now we know why. This, and this is Israel down here, Lebanon here, right? So you'll see a lot of strikes going on here. But this map becomes very, very important because if you look at over the border into Syria, who has set up shop? This was mid this year, so just a couple of months ago. But notice, these are Iranian flags. So you've got a boatload of Iranians in Syria right here along that border area leading up to the border of Israel. That's very important because when you start talking about Hamas, and you start talking about Hezbollah, Hezbollah is an Iranian-backed terrorist organization, okay? And so if you've got this going on here, then you know you've got Hezbollah standing up shop in here as well, okay? And then these others, these are Russia, right? And then U.S. is up here, and then a little further to the north, you can see it is full of Iranians inside Syria. That's why Israel is getting very concerned about their nuclear program and the amount of money that the United States keeps freeing up for them, because you know if they're in here and Hezbollah is in here and they're getting a lot of money being bankrolled by the United States, It's coming in here. Okay. Over Israel, you can see this is the hot area. It's a big TFR over that general area. And then it goes even more. You can see some low level stuff that'll talk about it's a controlled area, closed. They don't want anybody flying in there. That's over the Gaza Strip. But then notice here, you also have stuff leading up to Egypt, okay? And then north on the northern side too. So this is like one big no-fly area right now, all right? Okay, moving on. We talked about the area of Israel, Gaza down at the south, and then Lebanon to the north. Now, if I show you the current map, and we talk the Israeli Air Force, we've already looked at this and shown you where they're flying and everything else going along with that. But let me just show you, this is Israel to the north. This just happened this morning. That is Israel striking Lebanon. And it does not look good. That's a big explosion. Evidently, there have been some interactions on the northern side. That would probably be Hezbollah. And then this is a video that was taken. This is Gaza. Just look out this person's window. And you can see all the buildings on fire, things just imploding. It's pretty bad. Can you imagine looking out your window and having that view of all these buildings, just wondering when your building's going to be the next to be hit? It is not. Look at that. Just absolutely incredible. But let's look at the map. This is Gaza. You can see all the activity. The aircraft that you see, like the fighter icons, those are going to be strikes by the IDF or the Israeli Air Force. All right. And then you'll see little flags. That's spots where they're hitting, taking down buildings, etc. And then you'll see the bomb icons. There are things coming and going in the region. That's where also hit strikes. So you can see Gaza is just lit up, very, very active at the moment. Okay. All right. Now, how did we get here? Like I said, we are watching the amount of intelligence flights around that area, and you go, how does somebody get equipment, arms, vehicles, all of this stuff without being noticed? Very little goes on. It's a very small country, and there's a lot of intelligence gathering on a regular basis. Very little happens in the area without, Mossad or IDF or Israeli Air Force having eyes on it. Okay. So check this out. This is from the U.S. Government Accountability Office, also known as the GAO, Palestinian Authority. U.S. assistance is training and equipping security forces, but the program needs to measure progress and faces logistical constraints. Yeah, that means when they say it faces logistical constraints, they have an issue with getting the equipment to them. All right, so where do they get it out of? Jordan. Okay, that becomes important because they just roll it right across the border there. All right, so this, look at the date on this, May 10th, 2010. This is back in the Kenyans days. All right. U.S. training and arming 5,000 Palestinian Authority troops in Jordan. Remember, I just said this is how they get it in. It comes across Jordan. Date on this, April 2nd, 2023. So do you see a trend here? All right, we'll continue on. But you may remember we reported that, and we were watching a lot of flights going in and out of Jordan. And I said, something's going on in there. And then this popped up, and now we know why. All right. And then here you go. Look at this. U.S. reinstates hundreds of millions in funding to Palestinians, reversing the Trump decision. Remember, Trump cut all the funds off going to the PA. Well, this is April 8th, 2021. So immediately upon getting in the office, Flashbang comes in and basically reinstates hundreds of millions of dollars into Palestine. So where did they get the money? Great question. And then here, look at this. This is from March of this year. Blinken builds a Palestinian Hezbollah in the West Bank. Not content with fueling street demonstrations against Bibi in Tel Aviv, the Biden administration looks to Lebanize Israel with a new U.S.-funded terror army. Well, you go, well, This is from within. This is somebody writing the article inside of the country. Now, you go over here and you listen to Blinken, right? Remember, this just took place a couple months ago. Now, this is Blinken making a comment just the other day. Secretary of State Blinken says Iran always used funds for terrorism. Hamas tells BBC they had Iran's direct backing. So we have been watching the funds pour in to Iran right here. Biden administration releases billions to Iran weeks before the Israeli attack. This was October 8th, and you may remember it was $6 billion. All right. And so there you have kind of a pretty steady flow painting the scene of who basically got these guys going. All right. All the way back to 2010, we started putting funds into Palestinian Authority. We've talked about splitting up, making it a two-state solution. You even have the current administration trying to get to the table between the Saudis and the Israelis to broker a deal, even though we don't, or we, I say we, Saudi doesn't want the current administration in at the table. All right. They've told them basically get out of the way, and Israel doesn't want them there either. But we are there trying to broker a deal between the countries from a peace perspective. All right. But yet we are the very ones who have, so let me back up and make sure you understand this. We are trying to get them to take down the barbed wire fence and the minefields between the West Bank and the rest of Israel. Okay. That's what we're trying to do through the peace deal. All the while, we have been pumping money into the country since 2010. All the while, we've been training 5,000 Palestinian troops just in the last year in Jordan. Okay. And, oh, by the way, it doesn't stop there. Palestinian Authority receives U.S. armored vehicles and weapons. That's September. That just happened a couple weeks ago. And so here we are. Not only are we giving them money, we're giving Hamas's and Hezbollah's backers, Iran, $6 billion. And, oh, by the way, the U.S. is directly giving the Palestinian Authority U.S. armored vehicles. How did we get here? Right? Now you know. Okay? U.S. is behind every stinking bit of this. U.S. Office in Palestinian Affairs deletes post urging Israel to stand down following the Hamas attacks. I will tell you, Al Jazeera, and we're going to look at their page in a minute, they are very anti-Semite. They hate the Jews, and they are advocating this terrorist attack, and they are pro-Palestine and everything else. So go figure. Most of the media is anyway, right? Israel declares a state of war. Notice they're not talking about being attacked. And the U.S. Navy carrier group has actually been redirected. They were off the coast of Italy about 5 days ago, and they are now headed down to the Mediterranean. And this was just a big write-up on the war zone. Won't go into too much detail on that. But as we go down, I'll show you the carrier group we were talking about is right here. This, again, was 5 days ago. This is the USS Gerald Ford. You may remember that ship off the coast of Florida back when they did the shock test and detonated 40,000 pounds of ammonium nitrate in the water at about 300 feet down and generated a 3.9 earthquake. Okay, so that is the same ship, and it is now rolling down here. Again, this was 5 days ago. It is already probably, if I had to guess, around Greece, and it's headed into this general area. Again, why would the U.S. be all of a sudden all about backing up and taking care of Israel? As Benjamin Netanyahu has basically said that, hey, listen, if you are Jewish and you live in Gaza, you need to get your stuff and you need to get out. He issued that warning over the weekend before it went super hot, but they are leveling buildings. And this is, they say, the biggest attack that has happened against Israel since the Yom Kippur War. So let's talk a little bit to the north of Israel. Notice what else is going on here. Turkey launches a new wave of strikes in Syria, Remember, we were over here looking at this map. This is Turkey up here. This green area is not Turkey. Just so you know, this is Syria. Turkey has basically breached their border, and they have been there for quite some time. About the time the United States backed out of Syria during the Kenyon's administration, they have basically taken over. They've jumped in. Russia has jumped in. Iran has jumped in. And the United States is in here. So we've got three of the big players that are in or called out in Ezekiel 38, all right here to the north of Israel. But when you've got Turkey already breaching the border and taking out strikes inside of Syria using drones, things are starting to really heat up in the Middle East. U.S. training and arming 5,000 Palestinian Authority troops in Jordan. Remember, I just said this is how they get it in. It comes across Jordan. Date on this, April 2nd, 2023. So do you see a trend here? And we were watching a lot of flights going in and out of Jordan, and I said, something's going on in there. And then this popped up, and now we know why.
From what we just heard there, from just those news clips and segments that we abbreviated for you, what does this all tell us? We need leadership in a lot of different areas. We have none at all. The whole administration that's running our country right now, we could call it the Biden administration, it's like they don't know what they're doing, or they know exactly what they're doing, and they're surrendering our national security. The things they're focusing on and not in the right direction. Immigration. You cannot have a country invaded by so many people. It's an invasion. Let's call it what it is. Basically, it's the financial. Yellen, who's the former chair of the Fed, she's taking us all for fools. And many of us knew that there was a problem with her when she was the chairman under Obama, which makes us have to look back at Obama, too. Because while he smiled and tried to charm everybody, we weren't all buying it. What's going on here? They're taking financial control. You got to understand the powers of finance. But saying that, there's a lot of lies that aren't being accepted now worldwide. There's a lot of free people that are waking up. The other ones have nothing to say. They're told what to do by the dictatorship. Showed you the Pandora Papers that broke in 2019. And we focused on the drug cartels, the funneling money in, offshoring it, hiding their assets in the U.S. And we still have the same question. Why hasn't the media been following up on any of this?